Welcome back. This is Interface, and we're talking about the long-awaited report from the CRL Commission, which is probing rogue churches and many, many other things. And we are talking to Umamutoko Mkonazi-Kaluva, who is the chairperson of the commission, and also Pastor Giet Khoza, who is with Rhema Ministries. He is the CEO there. So let me just take some of your Facebook comments. This is what Gloria Lisabe says. What about Sangomas and their finances? Why don't you regulate that, CRL Commission? Tato Hlubi says, the commission never liked Pastor Mboro from day one, only because he does miracles, which are usually made by African foreigners. Okay. Nathi Mnguni says, if people believe in it and it works, who is the commission to regulate that? Fix the important issues first and leave the mighty men of God alone. Paul O'Donnell says, was Islam also grilled? All religions the same? Money and power. Sia Roberts says, churches belong to God and politicians must back off, and there is no need to regulate. Only God does that. Jeff Mjava says, churches need to be regulated. It's high time. And then there's another language spoken there which is not user-friendly for this show. But you get the gist of where these comments are going. Let's start with the one around going beyond the churches. You know, is this an attack on just the churches? Did you look at Sangomas? Did you look at Islam?
We looked at Islam. We look at the Jewish religion as well, and to look at what systems they have in place. Do they have systems in place? The Jewish community has what they call the Beth Din, which is exactly a similar thing that we are proposing, peer review mechanism. And even the Islam people have a similar mechanism of peer review mechanisms where your own peers in your own religion can then say this is acceptable and this is not acceptable. I think there are a few comments around why should the CRL Commission get into this business. The Constitution is very clear. The Constitution where a commission formed by Chapter 9 of the Constitution. It says, protect and promote. We got to a stage where religion and belief systems needed protection. Otherwise, if we felt everybody was swimming on nicely and nothing was happening, we would have stayed at home. The issue of traditional healers were very firm on it in terms of, first and foremost, the adverts. They have ridiculous adverts, which are an exploitation of people's belief systems. Because once you believe that a traditional healer will help you, and then he tells you, we've had serious complaints about people who've been asked to cash their pensions and to give it to them, they're going to multiply it by 10, and then they disappear with the money. And
but
if
how
you look
are you
at
going to
newspapers,
what are you proposing for them?
We're proposing the clampdown of adverts. That's how they get to people. They get to people by promising them all those things you see in the adverts. So our energies are focused on cutting the cord. Once you need word-of-mouth adverts, you'll go back to the old system that we knew about traditional healers. That you'll be told by someone, hey, that healer is very good, I went there. And then all these wild promises of all these wild things won't happen.
Pastor Khoza, this peer review mechanism that Umama refers to, how would it work? You know, are you in support of it? And if so, how would you see it working?
Yeah. From the church's point of view, we were there. Obviously, there's a lot of work that we need to do in the 3 weeks. Consultation, looking at the recommendation and findings in detail. So, but from the face value when we met, we support the peer review, and from what we see is that churches that believe the same, so churches, you got your mainline churches, got the charismatic churches, will need to be grouped together so that in the peer review, if someone behave in a way that is unbecoming in our peer, can be taken through the process of the peer. So it's not your state telling the churches what to do. It's your peers who actually believe on the same thing.
So you would have like a code of conduct that you've established that you will hold each other accountable through.
Yeah, just to give you an example, for instance, Rhema Church belonged to IFCC. And IFCC is the International Federation of Christian Churches, which we have different churches who believe together. So we've got a constitution. We believe on the same thing. We do. So if someone out of us there start misbehaving, we hold them to account through the processes that we have.
Who would determine who sits on that peer review commission, let's say?
That peer review council was saying there will be nominations, just like any other process. There will be a process of appointing the relevant people who will look at the different religions. Fortunately, the Jewish people already have their birthday, but we are also saying, you know, we're looking at umbrella organizations, like he has mentioned, the IFCC, there's the SACC, but we're saying other formations can also be formed so that that can be taken downwards, that you have freedom of association. Then the council would then make sure that those umbrellas also work effectively, because one of the things we're proposing strongly is a licensing mechanism. You should be able to get a license to operate so that you apply somewhere and we are vetted so that we know you're not a
fly-by-night.
Not only a fly-by-night, but a pedophile, for instance. You see, there's a law in this country that if you're going to work with children, you must be, you know, vetted to see that you're not on the child protection register.
On that point, Mum, let's say I am on that register and I go to Rhema Church and I see the light and I start doing the work of God and I change and I am this model citizen. What then happens to me when I have a calling to serve in the children's ministry? Are you going to come to me and say, I cannot do that which I believe God has called me to do because there's some register where my name is?
We'll definitely do that. You see, if you want to be a social worker, if you want to be a teacher, if you want to work with children, the law is very clear. Irrespective of your calling, we are a danger to society.
Is that not going against what the religion professes to do, which is to allow people to change and become a better version of themselves?
No, we believe that people change. Actually, that's what we say, that, you know, when you come to God, we promote change, we promote transformation. We believe you become a better person, but that doesn't mean you can't be wise on how you do things. It doesn't mean that. In fact, particularly in our church, we took through all our stuff through that process to check that the people that are working with the children, this is what the law requires. So the Bible also encourages the obedience of the law of the land. You know, so you have to encourage that, and also you have to give people some time to see if what they say they believe now, it matches with them. So it's not to say transformation doesn't, it does happen, but you got to be wise on how you do things.
So many things coming out of this report. We can't wait to get our hands on the full report. 3 weeks for stakeholders to comment. What do you think of what's being said on the show? Give us your thoughts at Interface on SABC or at Tembisa Magele on Facebook and on Twitter. We're back after this.
Over the last couple of years at Sensodyne, we've been developing new and improved Sensodyne Repair and Protect. We've been able to use extremely advanced